And welcome to the Glacially Musical Pouredcast. It is beer, metal, and swearing. Of course, I am Nick Cameron of Glacially Musical, joined by my good friend, a man who always has his finger on the pulse, a man who's always out there checking to make sure, see what the people love, find out everything, taking polls. Keefy Quinnipiac, how we doing today, buddy?
I think it's Quinnipiac and it's in Connecticut. But what do
I'm
I
going
have?
with Quinnipiac.
What do I have my finger on? Oh my god.
It's, this is your finger far from the pulse, jammed straight up your arse.
That's completely possible. How are you today, my friend?
I'm
Happy podcast day.
it's Thursday. It's awesome. It's great. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's meat of the episode, Baroness Purple. A great record explaining what I didn't know. Here's how we do things here. Thank you very much for joining us. We have a greet, we have a beer, we have a shirt, we have a news. I got two news stories today. One short, one funny, which coincides with my vinyl. So, yay. And then we get to the meat of the episode this week. The main course is Baroness's fourth record, Purple, the coming out project, or the departure project, or whatever fancy think piece words you need to add to it. So, I'm going to beer check this week. I am rocking, I've been doing a lot of session beers this week because I have been sessioning beers that should not be sessioned in my recent past. So if I have session beers, it's a lot more like soda. This week I've got Peter's Brand Dutch Pilsner. Pick this stuff up at Trader Joe's every week. Gonna rock it in my Great Divide Brewing pint glass. Great minds drink alike. And the finger fudge pour down the middle, pinkies out, of course, while we're classy. This is a lovely Pilsner. It also is the beer I use to make beer dip, which is 4 ounces of beer, one brick of cream cheese, half a bag of cheddar cheese, and one sachet of Hidden Valley Ranch or Aldi's brand ranch powder. Everybody loves it but me. I hate it, but if I promise to make it, I get to go buy this beer, which is delicious.
Sachet Chante. Yeah, that sounds delectable. I am drinking a beer. I don't recall if I've ever had this. I think you've had this beer. This is a Trader Joe's special, not by them, but they sell it. Summer Oasis India Pale
I
Ale
have not had that. Who makes
from
that?
Pizza Porter Brewing, which is sold at Trader Joe's.
Hmm.
I'm house sitting, as you
I've
see.
not
As you
seen.
see, I'm not at the Ghost Cult HQ, and rather than have a virtual background, I try to keep it real and keep my. I see that I try to keep my consistency with my color scheme and my stuff. So you get to see a little of my laptop from this angle, and the microphone. You cannot see, but it's kind of bleeding into my space where it normally wouldn't be. But I have this cool beer. I'm going to try it out because I like India Pale Ales.
Just gonna point out. Wait, hang on, pop. Nope, wet fart.
Nothing.
Uh Nothing matters what you say. Doing what you say. I don't know the words. I the beholder, because you got a beholder on the back of that laptop. I see that stuff.
Um, Maybe. I think that's a yeah, Skinner, the art of Skinner.
That's a
Um,
beholder. That's from D and
I
D TSR.
I don't have a beer glass, so I'm drinking from a water glass because when in doubt,
Classic.
you gotta make do.
Hey, if it's an IPA, you got to pour it out. If you don't get that, all right. Cheers from the can. I got a pint. So, cheers.
Yes,
The YouTube happy hour.
I too have a pint. So,
I got a
mm-hmm.
Yingling. I got a Yingling bar back, so I'm good to go for this podcast. If you don't mind, I'm going to vinyl check. I'm going to drop a deuce this week.
Drop a deuce.
First one. I have been wanting to get a copy of Obituary's Cause of Death on vinyl for a long time, but every time it pops up, it is a classic. It sells out. It goes crazy and stupid. So I finally chose for the Settlation. Obituary, Cause of Death, Live Infection. This features the modern day lineup of the band playing. It is just Cause of Death, front to back. They also have a Slowly We Rot version as well. Nice red vinyl. The artwork is largely the same. Very cool. Excuse me. Oh my god, that is the first belch on the podcast for in months. I apologize. I apologize. The finger fudge pour is supposed to be fixing this. All right, I'm gonna have to call the manager now because I've got Vinnie Vincent news this week. I am moving the Vinnie Vincent record up on the totem pole because I am a dumbass, and it was there for 3 weeks in a row. I have come home with Vinnie Vincent Invasion. Not All Systems Go, the original. If you are looking for high pitched, squealing, wheeling, and dealing, spiky hair, the where you're not sure if the bangs are taller than the spiky boots heels, this is your guy. Great copy of it. It is an original press. It's in great shape. It doesn't make the music any better, but I felt like, you know what, they can have my $30. So I gave them my $30. It is like a lot of the 80s metal, especially the Kiss variety. It is better on vinyl because when they put it on CD, nobody cared. They just hit go and it sounds like ass on all of them. So it's more enjoyable. However, it's not going to be heavily spun on the turntable. So
I'm literally dying laughing here on mute. It's not going to make the music any better. Oh my god. Holy hell. I also have a Kiss news item, so I wish I kind of had a Kiss vinyl to check because I also have a Kiss news item. So my vinyl check, this literally showed up right before I ran out the door to travel out of town to pet sit once again. And then I promptly dropped it on the floor and bent the fucking I bent the sleeve right before we went on air because I'm a dumbass. But I got it a month early, 3 weeks early.
The week I checked Pink Floyd, I bent it.
Yeah,
I
totally.
bent the sleeve right after I checked it.
So I might have news item checked this about a month and a half ago, or not even a month ago. Zozobra has reissued their classic album Savage Masters. A huge portion of the proceeds is going to the family of Caleb Schofield, who died a few years ago. And so this album's awesome. I'm a fan, and I never had it on vinyl, and I don't think maybe it wasn't even ever on vinyl, but let's just check it out. You have the beautiful artwork laid out in perfecto for vinyl. And then I believe it's on a fancy color vinyl. There's a insert with lyrics. I think I'm holding it upside down. Nope, right side up. Insert with lyrics. And then, yep, here's the vinyl itself. I'll have to go put it in the mylar when I get home. Oh, I think it's in a hot pink. Kind of a
That's
pinkish.
nice. See, my Vinnie Vincent record should be that color.
Clearly. And yeah, just, rest in power, Caleb, and shout out to Zozobra and those folks. And Brutal Panda Records put this out as a reissue, and I think it was $20, $23.
That's not
for
bad.
A reissue of a great record from 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
I paid $30 for this stupid Vinnie Vincent record. So
I had something clever to say about make better choices, but all I have to say is
you can only say make better choices so many times before I get tired of it and just tune it out.
You have some doozies on the podcast the last couple of months.
I'll be honest, I tuned out your make better choices spiel months ago.
Yeah, clearly.
I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah, you don't listen. And I think I probably bent the lyric sheet. So here we go. It's not, nothing stays gold, right? Nothing stays perfect. So it's just, that's what it is.
Real quick, if I'm assuming, hopefully we're doing my chaser ID in a couple of weeks. There's something I want to throw out now on the Metallica vinyl that I checked last week, the Kill 'Em All Megaforce pressing. It had some scratchiness, so we did the glue trick, and it increased the listenability of that record tenfold.
Can you just really quick tell us again what the glue trick is?
Basically, it's you put Elmer's glue. You want to get not the school glue, but the one that's a little bit thick. You want to get a little stickier, a little thicker. And basically, you put glue all over the wax, not the label, like a cupcake. You let it dry. Once it's clear, it peels right off. I've got pictures of it on the Glacially Musical Facebook page. And what it does is it sticks to all of the dust that's stuck down in there that you can't buff out with your cleaner, pulls it out. So it decreased the crackles by 70%. Like, we're gonna do it again because we used the Elmer's glue once on one side and we used the super thick on the other. we're gonna do the super thick on on side 1 to make it, because side 2 came out better than side 1. So the super thick glue was better. So my idea is we'll do the super thick, then put the, because it didn't peel off the same. Then we'll put the Elmer's on top of that, and once it dries, put the Elmer's on top of that. So the Elmer's will the school glue will pull it out better than the super thick, because the super thick was too brittle.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When you sent me the photos, which you should definitely put on your Instagram, where people will really see it, and you should start posting your Instagrams as reels, not posts. But anyway,
Okay.
Vertical, not square.
Yeah.
And people, like, really, I was freaking out when you sent it to me, because I was like, this is very, to me, unorthodox. I would be terrified to do this, but I don't buy a lot of older vinyl. I buy a lot of brand new stuff that's, because I don't.
We have very different things that we buy. Keefy is much more on the zeitgeist, and I am much more, I want to replace this Iron Maiden 180 with an original pressing, because that's just what I am digging these days.
Yeah, that's fair. It's different. You like chocolate, I like vanilla bean with a really great made vanilla with the specks of vanilla in it, as opposed to some crap from Walmart. And you like a very fine chocolate. We have different, ebony and ivory.
Correct. I'm ivory. I like vanilla way more than chocolate.
Oh, me too, actually. All right.
Well, then we're ivory and
ivory.
So we're
alabaster and ivory.
I was gonna say we're coffee creamer and vanilla ice cream, but whatever. So let's move on to the news. I have 2. I'll drop my first one first. I'll drop the sad one first, then we can move on from that. I'm not going to do that. I take that back. I just got the one. Vinnie Vincent has announced his next $500 for the weekend party, featuring the Vinnie Vincent Shred Mothron, the Q&A, catered food, probably by the amateur chef on YouTube again, who makes crockpot soup for everyone. The fan jam, where the fans become his band, and he plays the songs they want to play. No guitarists allowed, only bass drum and, well, just bass and drums, really. So good luck with that. That is a great way of having a full band without having to pay them. It's like Metallica selling off extras for oh damn, that stupid movie they did that nobody liked. Well, then it's
through the never.
Through the never. Thank you. Where
you gotta resist that urge to turn around.
I couldn't remember where it was. I just wanted to look at the side.
You have the vinyl? Oh my god.
Yeah, I got it.
You dumbass.
Like, why? I love live albums. It's not terrible.
It's terrible.
Not terrible.
It's not a real live album either. It's
live. It's as live as alive.
Yeah, but that's not saying anything. It's Metallica. No, they should do better if you're Metallica. They have great live albums. I
have real live by Metallica too. I wanted that, and I have it. It only paid like $30 for it. Got it on the cheap. Where was I? Yes. I don't remember. So this particular, it's got one new thing. This is the listening party for Vinnie Vincent's new album, Judgment Day, Guitarmageddon Part 1. If it's anything like what I've heard on Guitarmageddon before, it sounds like a third grader punching a guitar in the face over and over, but really fast. So in his mind, that's shredding. However, in my mind, shredding is a virtuosic display on an instrument, not complete amelodic bashing of the strings. So that's my news this week.
I have 2 items of news, and we'll keep the KISS theme going. Have you ever wanted to write and record a song with Gene Simmons in one day for an exorbitant amount of money?
Is this the Gene Simmons songwriting masterclass?
He's bringing it back.
I have watched videos of previous results. Because I hate myself.
You definitely do. I mean, this episode is a textbook Nick hates himself episode, and we're going to start using that that's going to become a thing. It's going to get made onto shirts and beer glasses and shot glasses soon. Anyway, so Gene, maybe coasters. Gene, we should get coasters, right? We should. Gene is bringing this idea back for the last week of the KISS final stand at Madison Square Garden. Again, I suspect it's going to sell out. I know somebody that already got tickets. They were ridiculously expensive. And then Gene, you for a lot of money, you could go to Electric Ladyland. I have been there in person twice. You go to Electric Ladyland and spend a few hours with Gene writing, workshopping, and recording a song with Gene that you then get to take with you.
And if it's like how they did it on the cruise, one, I'll say this: it is a step up not being in a kitchen while they're doing this, because that's where it was before. It was in a goddamn kitchen. Two, there's 10 other dudes playing the same and writing the same song around you, all of you playing bass, which is nonsensical to a degree I can't even calculate. And that song is oh yeah, stick it up me baby, time to take off your clothes, woo wee maybe.
Right. A lot of whoa yeahs and
Backbone slip, logs and fireplaces.
I get the idea of hanging out with Gene for a few hours at Electric Ladyland. Like that sounds really cool. And if I had a lot of money, maybe I could be tempted. But I wouldn't even want to try to write a song with him in an hour or two. Like that's just dumb, has no value. You wouldn't play it for your friends after the first. You're not going to come back to this in like 10 years. Like, remember that time I wrote that song with Gene?
No, people do. It's the same dudes that share their pictures. That time I met Peter, oh my God, he was so nice to me.
I mean, I would like to. I never met Peter. I would like to have met Peter.
But I mean, the thing is when you're paying them, it's just when I see these people bragging and telling war stories about how their meet and greets went, it's just like that time I used to watch the Bunny Ranch TV show, hearing the dudes bragging about what the hookers did for them.
I mean, like hookers is harsh, but yeah, you're not wrong.
Hey, our princess, Carrie Fisher, called them celebrity lap dances.
That's fair.
You're paying them to get what you want. Look, no shame. You know, I fully support sex workers. I fully support celebrity lap dances for you. It does not work for this guy.
I mean, yeah, no, I have nothing against them. I fully support them. I wouldn't do one, but like, yeah. Anywho, so that's the KISS news, and then on to some other news. I feel like we should do more vinyl stories. Talk about merch that's coming, vinyls that are releasing, things like this. And I did that. I did that a little bit with the Zozobra, where I mentioned it. Now we have it. Mm-hmm. So Alcest this week, literally yesterday, announced via their label Prophecy Productions that they are going to do. They have been doing vinyl reissues. And, Prophecy is kind of a boutique label that they don't press a lot of stuff, but what they press is, incredible, rare box sets of things and super limited, extra things. So Alcest is on that label and has been for a while. And I might have just moved to Nuclear Blast, actually, for their most recent album. But, their legacy stuff is still at Prophecy. So they're releasing one of their past albums. It's not the big one. I think it's the second or third one in terms of what I think is the hierarchy of Alcest. Alcest would be a really good band to do a run of, by the way. And this is why I'm mentioning it. They are putting out a quantity of 100 holographic LPs that are $200 a piece. Any light that is reflected on this prismic holographic vinyl will reflect a rainbow, which is marvelous, right? Like that's incredible, right? I wouldn't pay that, but I think that's super cool that they're doing that. Like what a cool, like again, I've never heard of this ever. Like I'm sure.
Okay, I have one that does that.
Do you?
I have Jack White, his second solo record, not Blunderbuss, the really great one, but the one right behind it. If you shine a light on it, it gives you a hologram. I forget what it is. The Force Awakens. What you do is you shine your cell phone camera light, like your cell phone flashlight, and it brings up a TIE fighter.
Okay,
it's really cool for like 8 seconds until you go, okay. Right. And I mean, this kind of thing, this is the kind of thing that I kind of don't like. That Jack White record also does another thing that pisses me off to no end. Side one plays out inside out.
I don't know
So
what you mean.
you have to put the needle on the dead wax.
And play it backwards.
Yes.
And the needle and the machine knows to do that.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
fucking stupid.
Yeah. Let's swear less, but I
know.
agree.
I know. That's my only one so far.
I did one, so you get one too.
Okay.
Anyway, once we do one, we're screwed. So like it doesn't matter. Anyway.
Well, we're past the first 7 minutes, so
hopefully, yeah. Anyway, I thought this was cool. And then the other options were a picture disc, which I did not want. They don't have a plain black vinyl. So it's like the picture disc is your only choice. Or they had a book about the album with 2 CDs. So I ended up opting for the book. It was also the cheapest thing they had. And yeah, so that I just wanted to mention, I think we're going to start doing, like, I'm going to start seeking out things that are announced and releasing. I just think it's something, you know, if our podcast has a focus on vinyl, we should also be promoting cool things and stories and such.
I completely agree with that. We definitely should be pointing out what's coming out on vinyl. Although most everything is these days, so
very true. I think that's it for me. I mean, I had a couple of other things. If anybody, this is going to air tonight, but if anybody is at Heavy Psych Sounds Festival in San Francisco this week, please talk me out of buying all the vinyl from that label that will be on sale. And
I finally got Dead Witches from Heavy Psych Sounds. Oh nice. My god,
great
Dead
band.
Witches.
Great band.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of witches, All Them Witches is doing a 3-night stand here in San Francisco, and it's all sold out. So that's another one, and it's coming up like in a week. It's probably another one I can't go to. But
my concert calendar this year kind of has gotten stupid. DRI is coming to town. No one will go, so I'm not going because I'm old. Obituary is coming to town when I'm out of town, so I'm not going, which sucks because Immolation is with them. Definitely check out that tour. I will be checking out Danny's band Torchlight Parade with Red, White, and Floyd in a couple of weeks, which is a local Pink Floyd cover band. And we just bought our tickets to see Grand Funk Railroad.
Nice. They are celebrating 50 years.
My wife is thrilled.
They
40 years of no albums.
Well, whatever. At one point, they were one of the dominant American rock bands. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true. Do you know who is a huge fan of Grand Funk Railroad?
Everyone?
Lester Bangs. Well, yeah, everyone, because they sold millions of records.
Right.
Captain, My Captain, and all that.
All righty. Let's move on to Purple, shall we?
We shall. You set it up, and I'll knock them down, just like bowling.
Sounds good to me. So we are looking at the magical year of fiscal year, the second to last year, third to last year of the, I don't know, some number of years before of the Obama presidency, fighting the Republicans, keeping Obamacare a thing, blah, 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 blah. And in 2015, the world changes quite a bit in terms of what makes this podcast exist. Vinyl stops becoming a novelty. This is probably around the time where the change finally happens, where it's not necessarily unusual that you're not making a record on vinyl, but that's kind of where we are. And Baroness, featuring a new lineup on album, is putting out their latest record, which I've got right here behind me, Purple. Bought this on vinyl. This is a black copy. Got it on Amazon. Believe I got it a little late. I did not get it right on time because 2015 was when I decided to start buying records. And as you can see, I have a problem. If you look behind me, don't tell my wife. Don't tell me. Well, she knows. I mean, she knows. But so Abraxan Hymns Records tapes, or whatever they called it, vanity label. That's all that matters. But this comes out on vinyl. This comes out several years after Yellow and Green. As we may recall, between Yellow and Green, they have lost their entire rhythm section. The band was in a very significant bus crash, which we are thankful that no one died. It was that serious. This is Denmark Metallica kind of stuff, people. And we kept them all. When they came back after the crash, they have a new rhythm section. And one of the great things about Baroness so far is when they make a change to the lineup on the tour, they end up staying in the band. And that is a really cool thing. One of the things I was actually going to point out in my news is that Alice Cooper's live guitarist Nita Strauss has just released a single featuring Alice Cooper on vocals. However, it is not an Alice Cooper song because he does not record with his live band. He records with studio musicians. Baroness does not do that. Baroness keeps it true, keeps it real. Love that about them. So they go into the studio with Nick Jost of St. Louis and drummer whose name is.
Why are you putting me on the spot when I'm on mute?
Because I don't remember.
Oh no, it's the guy from Trans-Am who's Australian but lives in Brooklyn. Sebastian. Yeah.
Sebastian Yahoo.
No, Sebastian Thompson. Sorry.
Sebastian Thompson. So they've got a new rhythm section. And this is the first album they have written post Crash. This is the album they wrote after that tour with these people. And it creates a different album. The thing I always said about Purple was the album when I listened to it originally, when I heard it, coming off of Yellow and Green. Yellow and Green is one of those records to me where I'm excited. It ticks all my boxes. It does all this cool new stuff. When I heard Purple, erroneously, before Keefy jumps in with his actualities that I deserve legitimately, I thought Purple was an extension of Yellow and Green. Purple is not an extension of Yellow and Green. The nostalgia that I had for that album was so thick and so insidious that it dug into me that everything Baroness does now becomes Yellow and Green, and they were stagnating. And a band stagnating who's not named AC/DC is something I cannot stand. I hate, I detest more than anything. However, I was wrong. So I'm gonna go with that. This is a very different record in many ways. There's a lot more piano, not keyboards, but just legitimate piano. This album is a lot less riffy. So if you're looking for the staccato of Baroness, it's not here. John's voice is so much more powerful. It is a sledgehammer going through walls. The pain of the bus accident is still there. And I want before we hit record today, before I got into the room, I watched the video for Chlorine and I forget the last Chlorine and something. I forget. I'm terrible.
Chlorine and Wine.
Thank you. Chlorine. Wow, that's rough. So I watched the video for Chlorine and Wine, and it was a, it's a 2015 album. So the 2015 video isn't, a $400,000 "Don't Cry" by Guns N' Roses. It is a, in the studio, they filmed it, they put it all together. But as soon as when they show John, and everybody's separate, so I mean, there's nothing special there. But they show John, and John is in pain. It's not hidden. It's he's wearing it on his sleeves, well, providing his shirts had sleeves. Mostly they were tank tops, but he was wearing them on his biceps or on his shins, as it were. But you can see that anguish, and that anguish is what makes Purple what it is. It's when a hockey player gets hurt in a game, they tweak a leg, they tweak an ankle, they hurt their knee a little bit, somebody like me, and then if you're at the game, you can see this. You can only see this at the game. They come out during TV timeouts and skate. They have 10 seconds to check to see how it is, and that's what Purple reminds me of. And except it's not just that, it hurts. Purple is painful. It is a symbol of what they lost. It is a symbol of who they are now. And so he's playing through the pain. And that is what we have. We have Purple. Aptly named Purple.
Like a bruise. I'm sure again it was just another the next thing on the color wheel. But
May have been a coincidence, but
yeah, it's also the last album for Pete Adams, who leaves after this.
correct.
And gets replaced by Gina Gleason, who does the majority of the touring for this album. We'll talk about it after. But, it is definitely a triumph. I remember seeing them for the first time after the accident. And again, they were kind of off the road. They toured a little bit. They started doing those unplugged shows. John would show up and play alone, and sometimes with Pete, and just sometimes not at all. They had relocated to Philly kind of on a semi-permanent basis at that point. Philly-ish, because Sebastian again lives in Brooklyn and Pete lived in Virginia. But I remember it being like a very cathartic show for the band. I remember it being a very cathartic show for me. And this is even
That's
before...
how it was when I saw them on the Yellow and Green tour. We were one of the very first shows after they came back from the accident.
Yeah. And they did very few. They played just maybe a few tours, and that was it, because just physically and probably emotionally they were spent. Could you imagine getting back on the bus after that at all?
A lot, and a lot of just checking the knees, to see how it is. And I get that. I mean, think about when, and then we've all, I had a job 3 years ago where I got a phone call at 7 in the morning, right when I was getting my coffee, waking up to work from home. And I was told, oh, by the way, we're eliminating your position. It's nothing you did. We're just, good luck in the worst, economic downturn we've seen in 20 years. Oh, awesome.
Mm.
So yes, when I got into my new office, there was a lot of trepidation. There was a lot of slowly testing the boundaries. And this is 847 times worse than what we've all been through. None of us have gone through this, I hope.
It's tantamount, like we were talking a few weeks ago about Gary Rossington. It's like surviving the plane crash and having like permanent PTSD. And they still, and so there's a lot of things, a lot of transition.
Right.
I am going to give my one, hopefully only actually of the show. Abraxan Hymns is not a vanity label. It is a completely DIY enterprise. They left Relapse. They did not sign with another label. They are not on a label. They own their own label. The band owns its own.
So they have other bands on the label?
Just them. That's all it's for.
That's what I call a vanity label.
Okay.
Like Semantics. Esperanza or Blackened or...
But Esperanza and Blackened have distribution through someone else. And Abraxan Hymns does too, because you don't need to be part of another label. Blackened Records, like Blackened Recordings might be its own whole label.
Right.
Esperanza was still under whatever the Led Zeppelin label was.
It was a vanity label, part of Atlantic.
But Abraxan Hymns is not a vanity label. It is not part of anything. It is its own label with major label distribution. And it was so they could control their own destiny and marketing and everything. So I'm sorry. I apologize for my assholery.
No. There are very few people in this world that are willing to punch me in the gut when I deserve it. So that's why I let you hit me when I don't.
Yeah, we're gonna do our shirt check at the end today. We skipped right over it.
You
didn't even do yours, so we'll do it at the end. Anyway, we really suck at this. Maybe we should skip the shirt check.
We'll just Metallica.
Yeah, Haunt. I just got it at a show.
There we go.
Anyway,
we're good.
So lots of change.
I'm sorry. I had an idea, then you actually me, and then I forgot it. Think about when you brought up Gary Rossington's plane crash, or Metallica's, or when I brought up Metallica's bus crash. These are great correlations of this. The plane crash, we lost people immediately, and then after that they started parting people out. And that's a very good allegory for what happened to Baroness. Except instead of it being, 15 people parting out bits and bobs, it became 4 people. And by the next album, which we'll get to next week, 3 of the 4 are gone.
Well, I think it's interesting. I don't know this for a fact, and it's a question. I think it's too long in the past to ever go ask John this. But I think it was going this way anyway, where those guys were going to be out of the band no matter what. John played the bass on Yellow and Green, as you know. I mentioned that last week. He literally did a Jimi Hendrix. He went in and re-recorded all the bass because he didn't like the bass player anymore. and then they did
Well,
the
I mean,
tour.
there you go.
And then the drummer was part of the original lineup, and his brother was left and kicked out, and then he was like, how long are you going to stay in a band without your brother? And then Pete leaves, but
Well,
Pete,
ask Igor Cavallero.
yeah, Pete, well, that's 10 years. Pete, Pete has a family and he's a school teacher most of the year. So the idea of touring 8-9 months of the year and making a record the other 3 or 4 is out for him. And so he has I don't know if you're familiar with the band Valkyrie, who had an incredible album a couple of years ago. He has that band with his brother. And
well, I mean, one of the things that I don't think it's talked enough about, although I don't know how much it needs it, we are living in a very different era. When we were coming up, the idea of the original band was still a real thing. And now most bands are a solo project, basically. And I don't mean that meanly, but Baroness is the John Baisley experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love it that way because what he does is amazing. Yeah. It's not like Metallica or Megadeth. Well, Megadeth, probably poor choice, or Slayer or Obituary, poor choice, or you know what? I've completely destroyed my point by all the poor choices. But most bands are no longer a sum of the parts, but they are a star in a supporting cast of characters. And when you look at, I mean, how many emails do you get on a daily basis that are Jesus Christ, superstar, featuring, 15 bands, formerly members of. I know for me, it's about 20 a day, and you get about 15 bands, and I'm like, I don't know any of them, but whatever.
That is the journey right now for a lot of bands. Ladies and gentlemen, and gender non-binary folks with an X, Nick, bad points, Cameron. Anyway, I am going to jump into the track by track, lest we have anything else to say about this.
I'm good.
So, and I will, one last thing. I do have a thing, actually, myself. I just actually myself. So, I don't want to say this was, again, not a surprise release, but what Baroness did was they announced the album around Halloween and released it in almost Christmas. And they did this because, one, it's a weird time of the year to put a record out. But two, it kind of eschews all of the awards and the kind of pandering. Again, this is John going back to his DIY punk roots, own label, produce it almost themselves, control every aspect. And so he puts a record out in December. I happened to get the record like at Thanksgiving. So I was able to include this into my personal top 10 for that year. But like most people, it's kind of, in a weird way, it dominated the conversation of the next year, but it really came out at the end of the year. It was really interesting. So the album kicks off. We're going to just run through the track by track. I have it up here on my phone. And spoiler alert, it's almost all bangers. Morning Star kicks the record off. And like Nick alluded to, it is not Yellow and Green part due. It's
not red part due. It's not blue part due. It's a whole new thing.
It's a whole new thing. It is not that metal anymore at all. Even Yellow has some metal riffs. It's much more of a weird progressive rock, Rush, Led Zeppelin, yes, Genesis with Peter Gabriel.
It's about as metal as Led Zeppelin. That is a great
Deep Purple. And this is a thing that I came back to listening to this a ton for this run, but I listened to this record like a few times a year anyway. And it really reminded me of Steely Dan. Especially
I actually had this record up for sale for 10 months and nobody bought it.
That's crazy.
I pulled it down. It's now. Yeah. It's
I have this record on vinyl back east as well as all the singles. So Morning Star opens, banger riff, very complicated, progressive time signature. And it's also like immediately a sonically different band. It's not just that they're playing differently, it crosses different genres. But it's also like you can tell immediately there's a musculature to the other players that hasn't been there. Obviously, Pete has been there a while, but like there's a power in this lineup that you would notice immediately. When I say Zeppelin, you hear it.
yeah, one of the things that Zeppelin is a great allegory because Zeppelin has John Paul Jones. And how many guitar players, John Baisley, Billy Corgan, Ace Frehley, end up playing the bass on their albums when they're not bass players? John Baisley.
Don't compare Ace Frehley to those other guys. I love Ace, but just stop, bro.
No, I'm not saying he's as good as them. I'm saying he did the same thing as them.
Right.
He instead of paying for a bass player, he does it himself. He
Well,
should not do it himself. He is half the bass player that he is a guitar player.
yeah, but you know what I would say also, if anybody has a sensibility about songwriting and knows how to play the bass, like to play a bass line like it's meant to, these bass lines are immaculate. And
On this record, yes.
And Nick came in and got to play his own bass lines too a little bit. But like I'm saying, like on Yellow, the bass lines are played to perfection.
Yes,
you wouldn't fault the bass lines.
However, the bass lines on Purple are better than Yellow and Green because it's a bass player.
I guess I don't know that I agree with that, but okay.
Okay. Well,
and there's a bass player in this conversation, me. So
and it's not me.
It's not you. But anyway,
I play guitar.
Morning Star rules.
Yes.
Shock Me, not to be confused with the Kiss song. It was kind of baffling.
Although every time I hear it, I get confused.
I want to hear the other Shock
Me. That's why I
ever.
couldn't stop bringing up Ace Frehley a second ago because I'm staring down at Shock Me.
I guess so.
That's what I'm going with.
Shock Me might be the song that most blatantly references coming through adversity and the accident, right? Yeah. Like clearly, incredible song. A Heavy song was a single and has a tremendous, like, again, there's like some crazy riffs on this song. Crazy. Just
well, I would like to see him do what Ace did, except with because Ace would routinely steal Black Sabbath titles. So I want to see John steal Ace Frehley titles.
Okay. Maybe.
I will not talk about Ace for the rest of the episode.
It's more likely that John would steal like hardcore punk band titles, like
you mean good songs? I know,
Drop Dead and things like that. Anyway, the third, I'm waiting for you to jump in. Do you have any thoughts on these tracks?
No, Shock Me is great. What I loved about that one is the emotional pain. Is it's obvious what that song is referencing and what it's about, and there's a lack of confidence in the guitar playing on this record because they dialed it back. It's not nearly as complex as it once was. There's a lot more shoegaze on this record compared to previous records, where the shoegaze is something that people like me without talent is great for, because or the Edge, but not that he has no talent. But one of the things he does is he will, and if you've seen It Might Get Loud, he explains it very well. He plays this 5-note riff and then he puts it through 18 effects, and he's like, see, it's much better. And there are a lot.
Nick just lives to trigger me and mention like the worst hack band of my lifetime, the most overrated piece of crap band ever, U2. And the Edge is a complete Herb. People pick on Jimmy Page for stealing riffs and stealing stuff. This dude stole his whole sound and identity from David Gilmour. I have no respect for him. Don't mention them ever again.
Stop telling me to make better choices. So this album, it's when I say it lacks the confidence, it feels like they're just trying. It feels like they're trying to simplify the approach, get the emotion through less calories expended, which makes for a very different Baroness, which is why I think the bass playing is so much more significant to me on this record than on previous records, because Nick Jost, not to take anything away from John or the other guy, Nick Jost is the one playing the bass on this. And like I mentioned previously, the guitars on this record are a lot less riffy. There's much stronger chord progressions on this record than on previous Baroness records, which allows the bass to be the riffy aspect, which is what we're seeing so far on this album. And it's so much more powerful than I remembered. And I feel like an absolute furd That is a contraction. FRF apostrophe R apostrophe D. You work it out.
Okay. I'm gonna lean into the mic and do my NPR voice. Nick, I apologize for my outburst just now. I'll collect myself and do better.
I appreciate your apology, and it was well deserved because, quite frankly, the Edge is terrible.
The Edge is terrible. U2 is terrible. Also,
completely agree.
See also 99% of all Journey songs. Anyway,
is anybody listening to this who's now offended? I mean,
oh,
really?
I bet someone is because people love that band.
No.
I've never, I stopped being a fan of those guys from like Bullet the Blue Sky. Anyway,
I stopped being a fan of them the moment I heard them.
Yeah, Moving on. So Try to Disappear is the third track, and let's try to work through this a little more expediently, but we're doing good on time. Try to Disappear, to me, and again, I'm concerned with lyrics and things. This seems like a song trying to overcome depression, and probably the depression, I'm guessing, that followed a traumatic near-death experience. And what a magical song. What an incredible, the high point of the whole album vocally, for sure. It's got this amazing chorus.
Definitely.
He makes choices, again, like I don't know that people really appreciate the vast majority of all recorded music uses very few melodic notes in the vocals when they occur. Like literally 3 to 5 notes is really stretching it for most people, and an octave if you can do it. And sometimes you get like the Mariah Carey penny whistle, and sometimes you get like the Leonard Cohen deep lowest piano notes bass, but most people who sing can only sing 3 to 5 notes. And John is singing like 7, 9, 11 notes in the scale in the same song. It's unheard of, but it's adventurous and it doesn't sound out of whack. It doesn't sound avant-garde. It works in a pop context. And one of the things about this whole album is all the songs are catchy and heavy, but not metal, which is just mind-blowing that he was able to do this.
Completely agree. No notes on that. Moving on to Kerosene. It's, we're repetitions on a theme. When every Baroness record sets the tone, plays that tone. So, and if you just look at the titles, Morning Star, obviously. Shock Me, obviously. Try to Disappear, Survivor's Guilt. Now we go on to Kerosene. Let's, destroy the memories. And there is clearly a pattern emerging, and that pattern is this sucks, and I'm just going to work through it. We've already got the 5 stages of grief here.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this album is the 5 stages of grief, ironically or not on purpose. Yeah, not on purpose.
Correct.
And unfettered. Good use of word there, and also a Pink Floyd lyric from Momentary Lapse of Reason.
Speaking of Pink Floyd, I offered my child my copy of The Wall, or my copy of Animals 2014. She said, "No, you listened to it too many times."
That a girl. Anyway,
I listened to it too many times for you, Keefy.
That's probably true. 2014. I didn't ask you to listen to that one. I asked you to listen to 2018.
No, I had listened. We did both.
We did. One cool thing about Kerosene, I do also want to mention, there's a really cool part 3/4 of the way through the song where it literally transmogrifies into a different kind of song somehow, like completely left turns in a cool way. And again, things you don't hear key changes in most modern music, or at the end, right? The coda has a key change.
The bridge,
the bridge or the coda. So Kerosene, just a really advanced songwriting, great songcraft. Fugue, the 5th track, is kind of a callback to the earlier Light and Shade of the earlier records, and it's just a little ditty. It's the shortest track on the album. It's just a little chill moment, and it does kind of close side 1 of the vinyl, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it Chlorine and Wine, which is quite long?
It doesn't say.
Okay.
I gotta pull it out.
That's what he said.
It doesn't say on the fucking vinyl either. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're already in the red. It doesn't matter. We're already in the penalty, as you soccer fans like to say.
We're in the box.
Yeah.
Oh, check this out. In the gatefold. Cool hits.
Yep. Very cool.
Sorry, I'm just giving the YouTube viewers something more than the podcast listeners.
Nick's vinyl just hit the deck. Unreal. What a show this is turning into. Two clown shoes 1 and clown shoes 2, and I clearly am clown shoes 1. Anyway,
Woo.
with my
Moving
tirades,
on,
chlorine and wine, as you referenced earlier.
Chlorine and Wine, the longest track on the record.
It does start with a very long intro, like a continuation of Fugue, possibly. It's a quite different track, but thematically, it sort of has like 2 minutes of unplugged tithering, and then it becomes like an epic rock song. Like a
amazing song. Love this one. You know, my perfect song metaphor, Jesus Christ, they hit it.
Fair enough. Another Pink Floyd reference, the Iron Bell, the tolling of the Iron Bell. Probably not, but Iron Bell's a good song.
No, it probably is. I think they just take references from
maybe. There really is no soft underbelly on this record to me, but
no, there's totally not. There's no soft underbellies on Baroness records. If you like the first song, you're gonna dig the whole record, and that's, I'll save it to the sum up. Continue.
Yeah, that's fine. Desperation Burns, also a single and fantastic. Probably the most aggressive song on the whole album, and if it had like a little harsher guitar, could almost be some stoner rock, heavy metal. There are stoner rock, psychedelic rock moments on the album, but never a whole song. And correct. Desperation Burns, with the exception of the bridge before the chorus, similar to Kerosene, it has kind of like the same song structure or similar. I don't want to say same, but yeah, Desperation Burns, furious riffing and great melodic vocals, which again is typical of this whole thing. Any thoughts?
No, no notes on that one. Moving on to If I Have to Wake Up, Would You Stop the Rain? Clearly another perhaps subconscious reference to everything that they had been through. More pain, more power, more great guitar work. There's a lot of great harmony work on this album, and I don't know that we could ever really give this album its due. And then, any notes on this one?
Yeah, no pun intended, but shades of green, the Green Album. There's that Green Album unplugged kind of light rock. Eagles, right. Again, I mentioned Eagles last episode. A lot of that light, not quite country, but there's a little twang in his voice.
Right.
And yeah, fantastic stuff.
Yep. And then finishes off with 16 Seconds, Crossroads of Infinity. I'm gonna chuck that in the bucket and just forget about it.
I'm pretty sure that's This Is Where We Came In From the Wall intro to Morning Star is the outro to the album also. So I think it's one of those sonic trickery things. What a banger of an album. An unbelievable. It was a 10 of 10. I reviewed this for Ghost Cult because again, it was sent to me. And I think it's a flawless album. I think Baroness has 2 10 of 10 albums, and this is one of them.
I would call this 10 of 10 as well. It is better than Yellow, and definitely better than Green, which Yellow and Green has so far has been my benchmark. Whenever you jump on the train, that's your favorite car. That's just, I'm not look, Metallica, I jumped on at Justice. That's still my favorite. I mean, it's, I think that's all of us. The Wall, that was the first Pink Floyd I heard. Still my favorite. Whatever, it is what it is. But we have in this record, we've got a very different Baroness. We have you go first. I gotta collect. Oh, okay. I will go first, even though I'm uncollected. We have a very different Baroness. We have a band who is like Bambi taking those steps on the ice with Thumper. And we have a band, or at least one human on the stage, who is working through a trauma. And how many great records have come out of a trauma? Leonard Skinner didn't have any. Let's just call that a thing. Let's call that what it is. But Roger Waters' trauma creates The Wall. Roger Waters' trauma creates Dark Side of the Moon. Metallica's trauma creates all of it. I mean, James Hetfield, God, good Lord, that guy's upbringing. So we have a band who is undergoing all kinds of upheaval. The rhythm section is different. The the songwriter is now irreparably harmed and damaged. And we have the other guitarist, his partner, who is eyeing the exits. I don't know much more about that, but we we're close to the end of the line here for the original Baroness, to where it becomes just John and the kids from my neighborhood. Although kind of always sounded like that anyway. So
What a great name for a band that would be Just John and the Kids from My Neighborhood. Anyway, yeah, I think it's probable that Pete was eyeing an exit anyway after the accident and probably knew that Purple was going to be his last record. Just to give you the timeline accurately, because we've been accused of not being accurate, and I don't want to be inaccurate. So they did
by the
drop
way, John, if you're listening and you want to tell us what we got wrong, email me.
Yeah, I've interviewed John. I wonder if we could get him on. Scary. Anyway, thank you, Emily Burton, wherever you are. Anyway,
Love you,
so
Emily.
they released some singles over the summer. They announced the album. They dropped the album at the end of 2015. They toured all of 2016, but they're already writing the next one. Like by the end of the year, I believe John curated Roadburn 2017. Very important and prestigious to curate Roadburn, not just the bands and his band, but the artwork and everything. And he helped kind of found the art exhibition of Roadburn. They might not have it anymore going forward, but like he's been part of it for years. And they were nominated for a Grammy for Purple, by the way, best metal performance, which again is laughable because there's really not much metal on Purple.
Well, I mean, are we really going to talk about that? Do you really want to bring up the Grammys and metal?
Well,
No, you don't. Let's move on.
I deserve some ire after my performance today, but yeah, they already had started creating the next record, and they basically did a lot of headline tours for Purple. They did the headline touring they didn't get to do for Yellow and Green. So, their status is already cemented. They play festivals, they go to Europe, and Pete leaves the band, and in comes session player Gina Gleason, who first tours with the band for a while before participating in the writing for the next album. And we can talk more about Gina and Golden Gray as we close the series in the next episode, depending on when we drop the chaser. And
Chaser's coming late. I mean, I thought this was going to be like 7 or 8. So Chaser's later.
Yeah, no worries. I have no other thoughts on this series, but if you do, I'm willing to listen to a summary.
I would just say that so far we have seen a band where they're moving the needle in ways that not many bands have moved it. We always refer back to Metallica. Metallica is the baseline. I mean, sure. And think back to Kill 'Em All. From Kill 'Em All to Master of Puppets, what a quantum leap that was. And Red to Yellow and Green to Purple, same kind of quantum leap. Different, I mean, obviously completely different directions, but we have a band that is growing and changing and becoming a very different butterfly every record. That is intoxicating. That is the kind of band I am into. That is the kind of band that you will hook me permanently. But now I'm going to go back and self-flagellate briefly, if you don't mind. Purple actually, after I'd heard it, put me off. And I didn't buy Yellow and Green. I didn't listen to Yellow and Green. It is very rare for me to hear a new album by a band that just is such a gut punch that I get off the train. But for some reason, Purple did that. When I listen back now, because I've listened to this album, 4 or 5 times over the past week on vinyl, on YouTube, whatever, you saw the thing I dropped earlier. I mean, I got it. So, I mean, it is what it is. But when I heard it today, when I heard it last week, when I heard it the other day, it caught me in a way that I missed before. And I think part of that is how deeply I dove into yellow and green ahead of it. Yellow and green is still my favorite, although I do love gold and gray as well. And I'm actually very excited to see how my opinion of gold and gray improves because I have those three on vinyl. The order I got them was purple, gold and gray, yellow and green. So I have listened to yellow and green the most in recent days because that's how we all are. So it's going to be interesting to me to see how I changed, to see how I grew, being able to take all of those records, including red and blue. And I've never paid as much attention to red and blue as I have during this series. So I am intrigued to see what I come up with in a few days. And that's all I have. But as for I'm not all I have. I lied. I am a liar. I am awful. As for the record, abject banger. I am so glad nobody bought it. I had it on my Discogs for sale page. Nobody bought it. It's back on the shelf. It's staying on the shelf. This record is truly, truly inspiring. And it is Baroness's wall. It is the healing moment to go from, oh my God, I can't believe what's happened, to we have to keep moving forward.
Well said, my friend. Do we want to announce the next series or wait?
Let's wait because we have one more episode of this.
All right, then.
You know what? You know what?
Could anybody still be listening at this point after this episode? Oh my God.
I hear the cat meowing. The cat's meowing. So let us go ahead and announce it. After next week, we're going to do Gold and Green, Drop a Chaser. Then we're going to do a series on the greatest band from hair metal and the Wobbum from Sheffield, Def Leppard.
You said Gold and Green. That's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, by the way.
No.
You said you said Gold and Green. I think you meant to say Gold and Gray.
I did mean Gold and Okay, so after Gold and Gray, we're gonna do a series on the greatest Nwabum glam hair metal band out of Sheffield, UK. The only band to be all three of those things simultaneously from Sheffield. And probably
legit,
really.
Legit. Take us home, Nick.
So thank you everyone for listening. Hopefully this album or this episode was far less painful than what the principals had to endure in order to make it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Keefy. I love you being here. I love having these great conversations where you say nice things about me, even though I say ridiculously terrible things and I mention awful, awful people that we want to punch. It's the Glacially Musical Pouredcast. It doesn't play in Peoria, and neither will I.
And U2 sucks.